Hello, everyone. Hey, Mark, how are ya?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. It's been a long day.
I hear you.
Oh boy. Hey, Broken Justice, True Crime Uncorked with Brandy, Alexis. I'm going to, yeah, Lori. It's been crazy today. I need to add. Hey, Hemi, you made it. Thank you. I'm going to add another mod here, just so I have her. And yeah. So me and Mark was just talking in the back, and we're going to just go over the timeline now. So that way we can break it down and you get a better picture of what Mark's talking about when he's doing these podcasts. And I do want to say again, and I want to reiterate this, please be respectful in the chat and be respectful for anybody that's name is mentioned, their families. Mark is not accusing anyone of anything. He just wants his brother home so we can give Harry a proper burial. That's all Mark wants. He doesn't want anybody upset with him. I don't want anybody upset with me. I'm just trying to help a friend out, and I can talk, I can get Harry's name, his story out there, and that's what I'm going to do. So I just want, when we're talking about these characters in this, we are not accusing them of anything. I just want to reiterate that. And we don't want anybody mad at the family, at me, just, for helping. I just wanted to make sure you guys know that, because we all know that you guys that are in this situation, I'm sure you guys are listening. We see each other. We live in a small town and we respect each other. And I just don't want anything to cause troubles for anybody. I just want Harry brought home too. That's it. And I know Mark, he's my friend, and he's talked about, he just wants Harry home. That's it. And I want you guys to put yourself in this situation. If this was your brother, your sister, your niece, your nephew, your mom, your dad, would you not fight like hell to bring them home? I know you would. So when Mark's doing these podcasts, I'm not even talking about just my podcast, everybody, because he's got a lot of people working with him right now. You would be doing the same thing if it was your family. I know it. So anyway.
And the big thing to remember is people change. Who and what we did when we were 18, 19, 20 years old, uh, maybe ain't the same things that we do now.
Now
I don't have no ill will toward anybody's family, anybody's, kids of people or wives, spouses, anything. It's not about that. It's about 40 years ago and what happened 40 years ago. So, I mean, some people, I hate to say it, but, I kind of got a tough skin being a cop for 21 years. So I look at things a little different, and I'm a little brash with, how I look at things. So, none of it's intended to hurt anybody or anything else. It's all just looking for answers. And like I say, we've all been there, done that, in our teen years and early 20s. Oh,
not me.
not you. Okay, I thought you meant for a minute you couldn't hear me. I'm thinking, oh crap, but no. I'm just saying that there's a big difference. People have to realize that. Yeah, I'm pretty open about my life. I always have been. But there's still a lot of things that I've done at young ages, especially being in the Marines and being all over the world and different things. Yeah, there's things I don't want my family to know that I did either. But I mean,
and you're right. People do change.
Yeah, people change. You grow up. It's just like I've got a lot of people I've dealt with over the years that that are addicts, and I always tried to tell them, the one thing that I can always tell you is going to make you change is when you have kids, because the minute you have kids and people looking up to you, you become their superhero. You might want to look in the mirror and see, they're going to do exactly what you do. So
Yeah.
people change. I mean, we're not the same people that we were when we were young and dumb. So.
Well, exactly. And, these people have families, they've got kids. Some people have kids and grandkids. And,
Right.
they wasn't even around back when all this went down. And I know I've sat across from a table with you. People, you being a cop, you say you're tough and stuff, but when it comes to Harry, I've watched you, the tears come, and you're just a good person. You're soft hearted, and I know you're not.
I've always felt I'm the type that'll, if we're friends, I'll do anything for anybody. I mean, that's the way I look at it. Or, if somebody needs help, I'll do what I can to help. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of other. I wish I could get Harry's resolved, and get him to a final resting place because I think with some of my knowledge of what I know and what I've been through, I'd like to try to help some other families, and let them know that there are some avenues that you can take and do that may help you find, the loved one that's missing in your life, the family member that you're looking for. A lot of them don't have I guess, the experiences that I've had, or the job that I've had over many years, to know that there are some avenues that you can go to push things and get answers.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, I found out new ones today. Hell, Lori, a question came up on Harry. I know at one point, Harry was arrested. And there was even some communication with Larry Jones that's mentioned in the file of, which is kind of confusing. And some of the conversation with him, there was something about maybe being processed for an OWI or different things like that. But I've never seen anything to show where, what records he has. What is his they call it criminal history. What is his criminal history? Well, being a dispatcher of 30 years back there, she gets right online, goes, oh, you can find that out and you can get it from here. I'm like, why didn't you tell me that? How many years?
wow.
It's just something you don't think about. But I mean, it's just little things like that to find out, different things, because that's key things that are very key to me. Was getting the DNA, to get into the system. There was conversation with deputy here recently of how good a set of fingerprints they have. On file for him, so that they can check through the system. So, trying to find out other places that might have other information that, might help get to some answers someday.
Exactly. Hey, Debbie, I'm so glad you made it. I'm really happy to see you in the chat. I appreciate it, and I know Mark and his family does too.
Yes, he's
And
had some very interesting comments on the
you
on the
know,
post I put up.
I'm going to tell you right now. I've known Debbie. Her niece is one of my very good friends, and we had a long conversation one day on the phone, and she said she would love to sit down and talk with all of she's got a good head on her shoulders. She's smart. She's logical. I think that it would be nice if we could sit down with her sometime.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. I have no problem with that.
Yep. So we'll get together, Debbie. And before
More,
we get
the
started,
more eyes. That's what this is all about, and doing these, these podcasts and stuff. It's
and
all
there's
about
a lot of
putting more eyes on everything to see. Okay, did we miss something? Is there something just that obvious that you look at and go, wait a minute,
and I
or
think it's in here. It's in this case file, and it's going to take
and it's like we've
somebody.
learned recently. It's all about just keeping it out there, because you don't know what's going to pop up next. You don't know who's going to step up and say, hey, I know this. I mean, I've had a message today of somebody saying, hey, what about this? Or I know this. And it's like, okay, I mean, every time you turn around, it's something new. So
Yep. And you have to take every little comment and look into it, because it could be may not be something, but it could be everything.
Oh, exactly.
So
thank you for your service.
Well, I don't know who it was. My wife said somebody said thanks for my service, but thank you.
I'm not even reading. Oh, it was Debbie Gavoronsky that said thank you for your service.
I said I see some of them, but I don't see them all. I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't know when I'm in like this.
Before we get started too, did you watch Chaos Divers video yesterday?
Yes, they found number 14.
Yep. I got goosebumps. You could see the way they were just so happy to be able to bring Jason, was his name, home.
Yep.
And I got goosebumps watching them. And if one of my mods could drop Chaos Divers link in the chat, I would really appreciate it, because
13 people in the last year, 14 since they started, and I know, just what if you don't know much about them, go watch some of their YouTube stuff. The stuff they're doing down there in Missouri that they've been doing, trying to find the I don't know what you call, like a hang glider guy or whatever that was flying one of them contraptions that went down in the water. I mean, they've moved mountains down there trying to find that guy. Unfortunately, they haven't found him, but you got to give them an A for effort. That's for sure.
Yep. Debbie, they're coming back in, I believe, March, aren't they?
That's tentative right now. They're looking at March. It's coming back this way. I know they're starting, I think, back in around February, March time frame. They're going to go out on another big trip, which is going to include coming here for a while. Yeah. Like I said, I was telling you earlier, I'm talking to another guy that's doing a bunch of mapping and different things for me.
That's amazing.
Kind of an expert in that. In fact, I was kind of surprised tonight. He's actually, what do you say, leaving January 4th to go to Australia and to some other country, Tanzania. He's going after 3 missing people down there that he thinks he can find. So
yes, my daughter. No, my daughter. Come here.
Yeah.
She bought Gypsy.
There you go.
She looky. It's some kind of
it's a reindeer.
A reindeer.
Oh, let's go. A reindeer.
Good Lord. Oh my goodness. Okay. So what we can get started now. I'm just taking off from what you posted today, and we can go through each section. Hey, Mark, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Mark appreciates it.
I appreciate everybody being here.
Yes. Yeah, you do. Anybody that just comes in and shows support, you guys are amazing. Okay. This was hard for me to do because I was telling Mark I was running late. And, well, do you want me to put the one up where it says, do you want me to read this one out? Because some people may not have Facebook.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. So this says, again, after our last video conversation, people asked to see the routes that Harry and the others took after Harry was dropped off. Remember, these are taken from their statements. It should be noted that Doug Maddie does not refer to a route of travel from the location Harry was dropped off. However, he states in his very first statement, he got in with Steve, Jeff, and Harry around 2:30 and was only with them for 15 minutes or so. He later stated Harry was the first one out of the car and that he saw Harry traveling north on Main Street towards the underpass. Steve Rockwell just recently stated that Maddie was not with him, Jeff and Steve, when they dropped Harry off. And Jeff has said he got out of Harry's vehicle. Remember, once again, I am not accusing anyone of anything, only relaying information obtained from the notes contained within the police file and what I have been told. So we had several people wanting the timeline. So this is what Mark did, and it is posted on the Facebook page. But like I said, we're going to go through it here just because some people don't have Facebook. Okay, Harry Milligan's timeline, June 30th, 1984. All times are approximate. Approximately 5 p.m., he finishes painting the Grimes house. Talks to witness for a short time. Assume he went home to clean up after painting, but that has not been confirmed. Unknown, mother says he left home in an exceptionally good mood and told her he would be home the next day to help lay carpet after his ball games. Question marks. There's 4 of them. Played softball game, according to Brian Williams. Okay. Is there anything you
So
have?
that's kind of the first big confusion of things.
Yeah.
You know, the person that saw him, around somewhere between 4 and 5 o'clock, Angie Kozlik, good friend of Harry's. Unfortunately, I mean that day's burned in her memory, from talking to her, because it's the day, June 30th is the day that her father died. So she was, home, you know, distraught over that. Harry's painting a house right, kind of catty corner or whatever from where she lives. She sees Harry, their friend, so they have some conversation, at that particular point. So I know, I guess to me, the absolute story, or the story that I believe the most, is the fact that Harry was painting a house for Steve Maddie. Him and Steve were the ones that were there painting that day, and finished up 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then Harry went home. Where the other part comes into is down the road, in talking to people or people reaching out to me. That's when there's a question of, was there a softball games for the July 4th tournament that Saturday? Couple people say that there was, some people say that there weren't. Brian Williams is one that is, when I talked to him, said there was a softball game that day, and that some of the softball team, after the game or games or whatever they did that day, went to the Waterworks bar, and that's where Harry got in a poker game up there. Other people that, have been named as far as being up there, say wasn't no softball game and weren't there. So, I'm not saying there was or there wasn't. It just seems very confusing trying to sort that out. I mean, I know there was on Sunday, because of course he didn't show up on Sunday for the game. But whether there was on Saturday, I don't understand. I guess what's confusing to me the most with all of that is I can't see him playing softball at some point that day in a tournament and then stopping and going and painting a house. I mean, it just don't make sense.
And I remember the last video we did last week, and then I know somebody asked this, one of the first questions. Anybody from that game ever come forward other than Brian and say, hey, I played softball with him that day?
Even just trying to identify who all the softball team that he played on has been tough. Some of the, like I say, some of the guys that I know that played with him, like Van Seaman and them, they say, no, there wasn't a softball game that day. I just recently talked to Denny Hollenrank. He says his last time that he ever saw Harry was at the softball that day, when he was going down the bench of all the players, lecturing them on being at the game the next day. So, is it a case of 38 years later and you're confusing one weekend with another weekend or whatever? But I don't know. That's why I say, I've always asked about, anybody that played softball during that time frame. If you remember anything about Harry's team, Harry, the softball tournament that weekend, whether there was games on Saturday, I don't know. I mean, it kind of seems it was kind of a strange weekend for a fourth. I'm sure they were 4th of July tournament.
Well, I was going to say they always did 4th of July tournaments.
But the 4th of July on that weekend just so happened to fall, I think, on a Tuesday. So did they play Sunday, Monday, Tuesday? Did they play? A lot of times them were just 2-day tournaments, or maybe even a 3-day tournament. not normally would they been Saturday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, because normally they finish up on the 4th. From what, at least what I remember, or any ones that I ever played in, when I was in the service, that's what we always done. They ended up, you spent your 4th of July playing softball, so and that's, it's not trying to, say somebody's lying or not.
Well, exactly.
It could be just a matter of confusing weekends or those things, but I'd like to know more. If there's some people out there,
There's gotta be.
half the town of Albia at one time. I know it don't seem like it's a big thing anymore, but I mean, back in the 80s, that was a big thing. Slow pitch softball.
It still is.
Wednesdays and Sundays or whatever it was. Everybody and their brother played softball all summer long.
My nieces and nephews, they play slow pitch softball tournaments up until sometimes there's snow on the ground. Mark Klein says, is his bats and balls missing? He should have had them in the trunk if there was a game Friday.
Harry was kind of like the manager of the team or whatever the captain of the team. He supposedly had all the bats and balls and all that stuff in his car. And that was part of the issue when Sunday morning came, game time, no Harry, no bats, no balls. Some of the guys said, oh, we borrowed, stuff from the other team so we could play, and get the games in and stuff. But yeah, everything was with him in his car.
Yeah. And Lori's telling him that they had to borrow from the other team since Harry didn't show up.
Right.
Also, Mark wants to know, was it an organized tournament? Because the state may have records. I don't know.
I don't think it was at that level. You know what I mean? It was just your local,
having fun.
Town, I mean, there might have been some teams that came in. I think I've even got some records that a team from Knoxville won the tournament. There's a newspaper article that I've located that shows that they won the tournament that weekend. But
you mean the game that Harry was supposed to play in?
Well, the tournament, the whole tournament. Yeah,
okay.
The whole tournament. So I mean, they would have played the next 3 days or whatever, 2 or 3 days. So, but it don't never say, what games were when. It just kind of got one of them little articles that says, so and so wins 4th of July tournament, and got the teams and records of of the games and stuff. But
so was it like certain towns in Iowa that would they travel? Were they just always
no? I mean, yeah, normally you'd have a 4th of July tournament. And I know around here, every once in a while you get a team from like maybe Knoxville come play, or one out of Ottumwa just to fill the tournament. They all come here, and usually there's always an entry fee, like anything else. Each team pays an entry fee, and at the end of the tournament, the first place team gets X amount of percentage of the pool money, and they usually go first, second, and third, that type of thing. I mean, nothing major, just a normal town softball tournament on a weekend. So,
well, I could find out if Ottumwa played.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's just hard to it's hard to go back 40 years and find records of anything, or right. Like I said, the main thing to me is just trying to identify the people that were on his team and those type of things. It's just so, and it may amount to nothing, but the more people you can talk to, the better. I mean, they might remember something a different way, or something else that somebody don't. So
Mark says, I'm thinking there is a record of it somewhere. I agree with him.
Yeah, there could be.
We just got to find it. Alexis, she's a very good friend of mine. She's a sweetheart. She says she's so sorry this has happened.
Well, thank you. I mean, love all the kind words, that's for sure.
You've got a lot of support. A lot of people don't like getting in chat. They don't know. Some people don't know that they can chat, but people.
Right. Oh yeah. I mean, it definitely, and I think a lot of this too, the good thing is people, that don't listen tonight, I've noticed that, usually most of the videos get viewed a couple hundred times or better, every time we do one. So it's getting out to people and makes people think. And then, just like I said, people reach out to me after they watch it,
Yep. And I've got some questions later on I'm going to ask that some people have emailed me. So I'm really happy about that. People are interested in and wanting to help bring Harry home.
Exactly.
Okay. So we will move on because, if me and Mark get to jabbering, we may be here at midnight.
Right. Yeah. I just say.
Okay. I'm going to bring this up a little bit. Okay. So now I want to make sure I get this in right order because, like I said, I had a heck of a time getting all this organized. I'm not organized when it comes to paperwork or computers at all. Okay, so per phone conversation, Denny Hollenrake states no softball game that day.
That's originally what he told me.
Huh?
That's originally what he told me, yes.
Yep. Members of the softball team go to the Waterworks bar after game. According to Brian Williams, per phone conversation, Brian, I'm going to say BW. Do you want me to use? Yeah. BW states Harry, DH, PS, and himself are at bar when card game starts. Yeah. Yep, when the card game starts. So BW states he recalls that Harry and Pat and MS are the only ones he recalls actually playing. So he's saying at the card game that it was BW.
Yeah. Brian said that he didn't sit down and play cards. He was just there. They all went up there to have a drink. He says that him and Denny, Pat Slavkowski was the three people that he named. All went up to the bar after the game. That's when he saw Harry get into a game, a card game with Mike Stalker and some other people. He said Denny didn't get in the game. It didn't get in the game because Denny didn't know how to play cards that well, I guess, is what he said. He also said that he didn't stick around, is what he originally told me. He didn't stick around either. He left and went back to La Villa. But in the same conversation, he also told me that Harry won around $1,800 and some of the pots were pretty big. So I don't know how you leave and know that either. But like I said, memory things can be what they are. But
yeah, and that's what he was just saying, that it was too high of stakes for him. So, and then BW states DH is not that good at cards and he does not play. BW also states he leaves and goes back to La Villa. Now, right here, is he talking about Harry?
No, he's talking about himself. He left. Yeah, he's talking about himself, and he went to La Villa.
Okay, and then he later states that Harry won $1,800 and some pots were $80 and higher. Money, it's the root of all evil, but it's not really the money, it's the people.
Mark, I seen Mark's comment there. Yeah, $1,800 back then is a lot of money.
Yeah,
I take $1,800 today, but yeah, it's not like it was back then.
Yeah, $1,800 plus. Have you found out yet? His Marine, military check.
No, I know that he got a military check. I believe that weekend before. How much it was, I don't know. I'm assuming. I know that he had a paycheck that he hadn't picked up from Peyton for Steve Matty, so he didn't have that money. So he had to have some money to sit down and play in a card game. So I'm guessing that he got a pretty good, and it should have been a pretty good chunk of change from the military, because I think it would have been his payout from boot camp, to where when you're gone and you're in boot camp, they don't pay you while you're there. I mean, they do pay you, they just don't give it to you then. Once you're out of boot camp, then they, of course, back pay you all that money for the time you were there. So, I mean, it could have been a 2 or 3 month paycheck for the Marine Corps. So, I mean, you're talking a couple $1,000s there, maybe.
That's a lot of money. Okay, I'm going to bring this up closer. I need to have my glasses, but I don't want to go out there in my truck. Okay, how do you pronounce? I say Slofsky.
Yeah, it's Slavkowski. Pat Slavkowski.
Slofsky.
Yep.
Okay, Slofsky states that Williams' statement is not accurate regarding him. There were no softball games that Saturday. Recent conversation with Denny, he claims there was a softball game Saturday, and at some point, Harry went down the entire bench of players and go in their faces and told them to make sure they were at the makeup game that day. See, that doesn't make sense to me. I'm sorry. It does not make sense to me. That has stuck out to me. Okay, why did he put it like that? I mean, all he would have had to do was say, Harry, Harry was making sure, wanted everybody there. But the way he worded that, it just, to me, I wish he would reiterate
He
more
made
on
it that Harry was very adamant about them being there for the next day.
Yeah, it's just the
You
way
know,
he
I
said it,
mean,
going
without-
in their faces.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, I can see Harry telling them to be there the next day, but I don't see him being that dramatic over,
Yeah.
making sure guys are there. But, originally then he told me there wasn't even a game on Saturday.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's back to
when did he say this
correct.
one, Mark? When did he talk about that he was in the team players' faces? When was that?
2 weeks ago.
Okay, so that's when he said that. Okay, I was going to say that part. Yeah, I didn't know if that was when he did that. Okay. States that was the last time he saw Harry, and he was not at the Waterworks bar and did not play cards. 6 to 6:30. VS states Harry stops at. You're going to have to say her.
Angie Cosley.
Well, I'll just put AK.
And that's where Harry had been earlier. She's the one who saw him painting. Van was her boyfriend at the time. Mm-hmm. So, at some point, like I said, between Harry seeing Angie around 4 or 5, Van must have showed up there. Van says that, 6:30 that night, Harry shows up down there, has somebody with him in the car. He said, I can't be positive on who it was. He said, I think it was either Jeff Adler or Denny Hollenrink. But he said, I can't be sure 38 years later. But he said, Harry came up on the porch where they were sitting, told him about the softball game the next day. And then there was some conversation about whether Harry was going to pick Van up or Van was going to pick Harry up, since Van lived right up the road from us in Avery. So I guess, it's back to that same thing of, if that's how Van found out about the ball game the next day, wouldn't he have, why would Harry stop there and had to tell him about a ball game had things transpired like Denny described, of going down the bench of the players at the game and getting in their faces, telling them to make sure they're there. So it's, sometimes things just don't add up.
Exactly. And can I read a few of these comments?
Sure.
Alexis, of course, says his car is missing as well. Correct. And Mark Klein said yes. And then Debbie says, who did most of the losing? Did they all stop playing at once, or did players continue playing after Harry left the game? Well, Lori said no one has ever said. No one remembers. And then Mark says alcohol and gambling with that type of money, question mark. And then Mark also says usually teams will play for a local establishment. They help with fees. But this was just...
And this would be the same time. I think Harry's team at that time was, what was it?
Was it Super Value?
Maybe Super Value, like Jim and Charlie. It wasn't Jim and Charlie's then. It was Super Value, belonged to Milton Burgers. So I think he played for Super Value. I mean, there was, teams that were sponsored by like the Altap, by, Ford Motor, Albia Motor had a team.
Wasn't Harry's team Super Value though?
Huh?
Wasn't Harry's team
I
super
think
value?
that time he
It
was playing for
was.
Super Value. A
Yeah,
lot of
I
guys
think
switch different, from year to
Yeah.
year. They might play for a different team, but I think at that time it was Super Value.
Yeah.
And like I say, they get sponsored by a business, and usually the business will sometimes they'll buy them the t-shirts, to wear, matching
Yeah.
t-shirts for their team, and sometimes they pay the entry fees for the tournaments they get into.
Yeah. Debbie says, if Harry was to pick up Van, did he make it to the game? Makes sense. Harry would pick him up due to having the balls, bats in his car.
Yeah.
Was he late to the game?
Van said he got up that morning. He said, I couldn't remember for sure whether Harry was picking me up or whether I was supposed to pick him up. He said, I waited for a while. He said, Harry didn't show up at my house. So he said, I just got in my car and drove to town. He said it was getting that close to, needing to be there. So he said, I figured either Harry didn't make it home and couldn't stop by and pick me up on his way through, or Harry had other plans and forgot that he was supposed to pick Van up, or vice versa. But he said, Van did make it to the game that day. I know that.
All right. Okay. Okay, about the softball makeup game on Sunday, says someone. Okay, in vehicle with Harry, thinks possibly Jeff Adler or Denny Hollenrake. 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Paul Purdy states Larry Jones, who was law enforcement in 1984. APD has Harry stopped across from Benton Avenue East Car Wash. And I do want to say something before we go on as far as Larry. I know he's probably listening. Larry, I've spoke with you on Facebook, and I would really like it for you to reach out to me, come up here, talk to us, let Mark know exactly what happened. So we don't want people's names being mentioned. If you have something to say that you have proof that you was not around when this happened, that you had nothing to do with any of this. So I would like for you to, come up here on panel and talk. I would appreciate that.
Oh, yeah,
I know Mark would.
that'd be awesome.
Yes, I mean, because I spoke with him on Facebook.
Anybody that wants to, I'll be more than happy to.
It doesn't even have to be mine.
We can discuss things. We can talk. We can.
Yep. It doesn't have to be on here. It could be at your house or on the phone or whatever. Yep. But anybody that wants to, I think, they want to prove their innocence. I think that would be something that would be really good, in my opinion. Okay. Paul Purdy states that one person with Harry. Paul Purdy states that Bill McGee was possibly the person, contacted Bill McGee, and he states he was not with Harry. And then learned from multiple sources that Paul Purdy withheld that Jeff Adler was also with Harry. Larry Jones does not recall stopping Harry that evening. He could have stopped him at the car wash. Doesn't remember. My contact with him was purely professional. Wonder why he made that comment.
Yeah, that their part is, like I say, that's a commenting conversation between me and him on Facebook.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah. Do I remember every stop I ever made as a police officer? Hell no,
But if the person was missing, you would remember.
If I stopped a guy and the next morning he came up missing, I think I'd probably remember that, and some other, little things here and there. But like I say, the other thing is never in my lifetime as a cop did I ever have to say my contact with somebody was purely professional.
Yeah, that comment there, weird.
It always was. I mean, I was doing my job and doing it the way I was, it was designed to be done, and by the policies and procedures, and and treating people with decency and everything else. I guess that's what it's expected. I would never have to,
what
clarify that it was.
Yeah. What do you guys in the chat think of that? Larry Jones, the law enforcement at the time, he made sure that he told Mark his contact with him was purely professional. What do you guys think about that? Let me know in the chat. I'd appreciate it. Okay, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Harry is at the Western Club, which is another bar. And this is where he picks up the cassette tape case from Jim Lundstrom. Jim and Gail Lundstrom state that Harry is in a good mood and that no one was with him. Other witnesses recall seeing Harry in the Western Club. And that was just another bar.
That's another bar across town. Some of the relevance there is, in the statements, I think it was Steve Rockwell referred to Harry saying something about Denny Hollenrink and some tapes. That's why, I tried to start figuring that out. When I first talked to Denny wouldn't tell me who had the tapes. And then not long after talking to him, I get a phone call from Jim saying he was the guy that had the tape. And a couple seconds after that, I get a call from his sister telling me about the meeting there, which both of them told exactly identical stories. Almost, I wish I'd had the conversations recorded because they were almost word for word with each other. But I don't know the relevance of the tape case. I know Harry was big into his music and everything else. I think I've kind of determined that maybe it wasn't a whole tape case. It was a few tapes. I don't know. Jim won't talk to me. I've tried to reach out to him a couple times. We was going to try to get together. Now he's chose not to talk to me anymore. So, I don't know, it's back to that thing. If just picking up some tapes is what it was all about, and all of that is factual, why would it hurt to, why all of a sudden be quiet about it? I guess is my thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, that is. Okay. I don't know if these next ones are in orders.
We've already
said that one. Yeah. Okay, Harry was in a great mood drinking, but when was this? Okay, I think, is this the next one?
No, there's got to be somewhere there.
That's the last one.
Right.
Let me see. Is it this one?
Nope. Somehow they got out of order there.
Yeah, they did. And that's my fault.
That's all right. No, go back one.
Okay.
Okay. No, you were on the right one. Yep.
This one?
Yeah. Because I got a hold of Bill McGee. He said he wasn't with Harry. We was talking about Jones. Later.
Okay. Yeah. This is
Bernie's, okay. It was determined that Jeff Adler was with Harry at that time, which some of the relevance to putting some of those things in there is when you look at statements. If you take this timeline and you look at the individuals, the last 3 or 4 individuals, that were with Harry, it just still creates that, the question, because, obviously here people are putting, like in Jeff Adler's case, they're putting Jeff and Harry together, at different times throughout the night. But when you look at the notes on Jeff Adler's, when they talked to him 3 or 4 days later, he said he wasn't even with Harry till after 2 o'clock in the morning. So it's like, where, what's the truth? Were you together off and on throughout the night? If you were, what's the relevance of not wanting to admit to that, or is the statement you gave later not accurate? I don't know. It's just, it can kind of be mind boggling.
Yeah, it does. Well, I don't know why I don't know if it just didn't download. But I'll read this. It says, Darwin Thomas speaks to Harry near northeast corner of the square. DT states Harry is in a good mood and has a case of beer in his cooler and wants DT to skip going to work and just go drinking. DT tells Harry he can't, and he goes to work.
Right.
Approximately 12 a.m., Paul Purdy talks to Harry on the square. Paul Purdy states Harry said typical popcorn shit. That was Larry Jones's nickname, was popcorn. So anybody that needs to know that.
And Paul was just asking him about the traffic stop earlier that he'd seen.
Yeah, and that's what Harry said, typical popcorn shit. And then Paul Purdy states Harry bragging about winning at cards. 2 a.m. Harry leaves the Waterworks bar with Mick Flattery and possibly another male. Mick believed it to be Van Seaman, and Van states it was not him. Approximately 2:15 a.m., two witnesses, which is Duke Carter, Dudley Chittister, stated that just after the bar closing, they met Harry on the northeast corner of the square and stopped and talked with Harry. Harry was in the car with Jeff Adler. Stated they spoke for about a half an hour. And then I can bring this one up and read it from here. Stated that Harry was in a great mood and had been drinking but did not seem in excess. Stated that Harry stated he was taking Jeff Adler to the Western Club where his car was parked. Larry Jones states that he saw Harry on the east side of the square and is sure it was after the bars closed. Does not state whose vehicle they were in. States Harry is with Steve Rockwell and Bill Kerr. States that Kerr always drove a Jeep. Bill Kerr states that Larry Jones is mistaken.
Yeah, I spoke to Bill, and he said that it wasn't him. He didn't see Harry at all that night. So
yeah, I mean, it just Larry being ex-law enforcement, you would think that
and at no point has Steve Rockwell ever mentioned being with Bill Kerr. So I don't know, why that got thrown out there, or who knows.
I don't know. I just wish Larry would talk. Larry Jones states, I saw them again by the library, separating to their own vehicles and leaving towards home. I don't remember Maddie. My recollection was that he was with Rockwell and Kerr. Kerr always drove a Jeep. Okay, let's get off of that one. Oh, shoot. Hold on here. Okay. I pushed the wrong button.
84.
Yeah, that just, it would just answer so many questions. It really would. Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't, if you saw them a short time later, exiting whoever's vehicle and going to their vehicles, then how did Steve Rockwell and Jeff Adler and Doug Matty drop him off at 4:30?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
it's just the absolute confusion,
It is very confusing. But like I said, you would think with Popcorn being law enforcement. And did you work with him?
A little bit, and not very long. And then
what happened with helping your brothers in blue? And
Larry never really conversated much about it. That's how I found out about him, seeing him drop him off.
Yeah.
Which even at that time, I questioned that because of scheduling. I don't know that, at 3-4 o'clock in the morning, as Rockwell states, Larry shouldn't have been working.
Debbie asks, sorry, Mark. Debbie asks, are there interviews with each individual mentioned in the timeline? If not, why? Oh boy.
Well, Debbie, here's like I said, I've put them up and I'll put them up again. There's notes from officers talking to them. The only typed reports are from a private investigator, Denny Carr, that was sheriff at the time, that talked to him approximately 10 years later. Just like I, recently found out the other day when I was sitting talking to Steve Rockwell and Denny Hollenrink. I specifically asked Steve Rockwell if he had ever been officially sat down and interviewed by law enforcement regarding Harry, and he told me no. So I'm assuming that none of them, since that I know of, unless it's happened in the last 2 years have ever been well, in Steve's case, it hasn't happened because he just told me that 2 weeks ago. But none of them have ever been formally interviewed by law enforcement to set them in. I guess that was always my theory as law enforcement. On any case, anybody that came up, I always wanted to set them down and get an interview out of them so that you always had a set story, a set of facts according to them that you could work off of. And I don't know that that's ever been done.
Yeah.
You know,
Debbie says, Mark, how good is your memory of things way back when Harry went missing? Just for reference, she's wanting to know.
I mean, I think I remember him fairly decent, but at the same time, you got to remember, I wasn't home when all this was going on. I was in the Marine Corps. I remember specifically, the events of my mom calling me, asking me if I'd heard from Harry. I remember specifically, my first sergeant calling me up to his office, 4 days later and saying, your mom called, your parents called, and your brother's still missing. We're going to send you home, and all the steps they went through to, within a day. I mean, he called me up there at probably 9 o'clock in the morning to tell me this. And by 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm in one of my buddy's vehicles being driven to the San Diego airport, to fly home that day. So, I remember coming back. I remember, I guess I remember quite a few things, some of the stuff, conversation wise with like my parents is kind of tough, I guess sometimes, because like I said, I was still 18 years old, young and dumb. I kind of was doing my own thing, I went out looking for Harry and trying to find people to talk to answer, try to answer my questions. But, I don't know. I guess I thought they were pretty good, and I would think that I've said this many a times that if I was right there or one of the last people to see one of my best friends the day or the night before, or drop him off from a car the night before, and the next day I find out that he's missing, I'm probably going to remember every detail of that night. That's the thing that is the hardest thing to swallow with all of this is the lack of concern.
Yeah.
You can say lack of memory, but it's not necessarily lack of memory. I think people have memory, and I think people know things. I just think they don't care to remember it.
Yeah. It's just, it makes me sick to my stomach. I was what, 12 years old, but I remember when Johnny Gosh went missing. I was a young girl. I can remember everything about that because my mom set us down, and it was scary. And I can still remember things, and that, I was only 12.
Right.
I remember a friend of mine, when I was in high school getting killed. I remember everything about that night.
Right. There's things that, that happened to me in my lifetime that I was there for, or, even as a police officer, I can vividly remember details of certain things, you just don't erase them from your mind when it's, something serious. Yeah. Everyday things of, did I play softball this weekend in 1984? I don't know. You know what I mean? But when it's specific things like this, I think you would have a better recall of things, and then you top it off with, like I say, the people that seem to want to avoid conversation about it. That's probably the more concerning thing to me. Just like this, we're talking about Larry Jones, and I'm not throwing Larry under the bus, or not trying to, I guess, but sit down and talk to me. Come up on here. We don't, if you're worried about me or, of anybody, I'm willing to talk to anybody, and I'll do it over Zoom or StreamYard or whatever, where you have no concern other than us talking to each other. It's just a matter of asking questions and answering questions.
Yep. And I think that would be a good thing if he come up and talked. He talked to me for a little bit on Facebook Messenger when I asked him a question, and then he just quit talking. I don't know if he don't have Facebook.
That's kind of what happened with me. I mean, he was answering questions, and then when his name kind of came up more and more, he pretty much, you know, blocked me on Facebook and everything else. So,
yeah.
you know,
And if anybody, yeah, I mean, I'm at the store all the time. If anybody, you know, you guys, people from locally come in, you guys want to talk to me, I'm here. Mark's always around. I mean, if you have something important, I will make sure Mark's, you know,
message Allison, message Lori, message me, message, you know, send me a message. You know, I'm on Facebook 24/7, basically. I mean, you know, my phone's with me all the time. You know, I'll get the message and I'll respond. You know, I mean, if not, ask Allison for like my phone number. Heck, I don't care. You know, I mean, that's the whole thing. It's, you know, just like this timeline. There's a lot of blanks in this timeline that need filled in. You know, I mean,
Mark Klein, he says, I would ask for a Q&A night at a local American Legion or somewhere. Maybe some players would show up, answers the softball questions and more. See, you never know.
I mean, I'm willing to try anything. It's just like you say, the matter is it seems to be in this community that
people don't want to talk.
Yeah, you know, people don't want to be associated with the story whatsoever.
Nope. Now, Atumwa has a Legion. I could always go, you know, go in there and talk. I'm going to go around different and find out more about that. So, yeah, I just, I think that's a very good idea.
Talk about the benefit. His friends didn't show up.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've had 2 benefits now, you know, and, you know, even
and that broke my heart.
Even one of these classmates did approach me. Debbie Amos approached me. She was a classmate of Harry's, and she was livid. She was livid that the fact that, you know, her, and I think she named off maybe 4 people that were in Harry's class that showed up at the benefit at all. You know, and the first one, same thing, maybe 4 or 5 people that he went to school with or anything showed up, you know, at the benefit. So, I mean, you know, it's just, I don't know if it's a stigma of, oh my God, don't let your name get into this story anywhere. I mean, I don't, you know.
But their name's not going anywhere. Their name's already in it. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, the stuff that's come up is not something that, you know, that I'm just sitting back drawing names out of a hat and throwing out there. It's all, you know, stuff that's in the police file. And you'll see there's, you know, this is just a start. There's a lot more stuff that's there. Been a lot of other names, you know.
It's just that I think if it was me and my name was in in this, you know, that somebody was missing for 39 years, I would be doing what I could to help find him. I would be, if my name was, I would be getting up on a panel. I would be going and taking a lie detector test. I would do whatever I could to be clear, to clear my name. That's me.
That, you know, I mean, there's a, you know, a reward fund, Harry fund out there. I mean, I don't have a problem. We can, you know, figure out what it takes to give lie detector tests. And if somebody wants to step up and take a lie detector test, be my guest. We'll pay for it. You know?
Yeah.
You know, it's you know, just looking for answers. And the biggest thing I can just say is they got to understand it's just never going to stop.
No. Hey, Debbie Gavronsky says, I would like for everyone to send you a memory of Harry.
That'd be awesome.
What?
That'd be awesome. Like I said, I mean,
yes, you know, that is a good, I like that.
Memories, you know, anything, you know, I mean, you know, like I said, it's all about, you know, my hardest thing for me is the fact that I wasn't here. You know, I was gone, and I'd been gone since, you know, well, December. December is when I got out of boot camp. I was home for a couple of weeks, and then I left. Went back out to California. Was out there from December to July 1st when he came up missing. So when I wasn't here to know what was going on in his life, You
You
know,
couldn't
that's
help
kind of
it.
hard to fill in the blanks.
Yeah, but that's not your fault.
Well, no, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that's the hard thing when it comes to trying to like now piece
Yeah.
a timeline together of things. I'm stuck depending on what people want to tell me and what they don't want to tell me.
Yeah. Well, more people are talking. We know
Yeah.
that. We're learning different things all the time.
Definitely.
Okay, this is the last part of that. Steve Rockwell states they stopped at some point on the square to check on Randy Robinette that has his hood up on his truck. When they come by again, the hood is closed and nobody's around. Spoke with Randy recently and he does not recall seeing them. 4:30 to 4:45 a.m. Steve Rockwell states that him and Adler dropped Harry off at his car parked near the Albia Library, and he watched Harry's taillights. He drove north away from the library onto 2nd Street, which then would therefore turn and then go to the highway to go to
Avery.
Avery. I mean, yeah. So I got the pictures. Mark put these in, and we're going to go through them too, because it's just so you guys can see. Well, first of all, I wanted to bring Harry's car back up of what his car looked like, similar to this one.
Yeah.
Did you ever find pictures of his car yet, Mark?
No, I have no pictures of his car.
Oh my gosh, I would love.
I mean, I found one the other day. I'll have to share with you. That
Of his
really
car?
looks. That really, it's closer than even this picture you're showing now.
Of his car?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's all from online. You know what I'm saying? But it's.
Oh yeah.
It's a closer. Like I say, I don't have any pictures that we ever had. Like
Now in 1984, don't laugh at me, you guys, but did they have Polaroid cameras back then? I remember Polaroids. I just don't remember if it was the 1980s.
I think there was some Polaroids in, and then everything else was
Well, when I was
35 millimeter that you had to take and get developed. So,
I mean, didn't people take pictures? Like, I remember in high school, we always had our little cameras, and then you had to, the parents would take them in and get them. But we have pictures.
Right. I mean, I've got, the pictures that I put up are pretty much the pictures that I've got.
I'm talking about Harry and his friends.
Yeah. See, I don't ever remember him unless it was, like you said, friends out there that maybe have some like that or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. There's got to be some. I just want to bring up some of Harry and you again. I just want people
back when I had hair. Wee.
Yeah. I really do want people to see Harry is real. He was real. He's a human. He had his whole life ahead of him. And we need to bring him home.
Yep.
He was a brother, a child, an uncle, a baby. Look at that. Just okay. Let's go back to. I got to show this picture.
Broken Justice says, did he have any problems with anyone that he didn't like him at around? Friends that might have been a beef with him. I know to Broken Justice's question, I know he was in a fight with a friend the weekend before at the Western Club, I think is what it says, or one of the bars, but I think it says a Western Club. Don't know who that was either. I mean, it can't even get somebody to step up and say, yeah, and apparently it was something as stupid as enough of getting in a fight with over a sports, over basketball or something like that. They got in a fight. As far as having enemies, I mean, as far as I know from everybody I have talked to, no. I mean, everybody liked Harry. Everybody got along with Harry. He was kind of a clown sometimes, and I mean, I don't know of anybody. I mean, if somebody knows of somebody had a problem with, I'd love to know because, like I said, it's all about finding places to look and people to talk to.
Yeah. Debbie wants to know who he went to. I'm assuming his senior prom with.
There's a picture. I think it was Gladys Kraber. I think there's a picture there. I think is from his senior prom. And then there was another. I've got another picture from, I think it's either a prom or homecoming, where he's with another gal. I think I know who she is, but I'm not positive at this point. Yeah, he'd have been 21.
Yeah. Mark Klein says you look like a badass.
Yeah, look real tough there, don't I? Yeah. Mom sewed us those matching shirts. Thrilled to wear them back in the day.
Oh shoot. Okay, let's see if there's. I just want to make sure I'm not missing.
I'm gonna have to watch what pictures you got. No.
That's my favorite one.
Oh no.
I love this picture of you guys. I do. I just
There's
I
another one.
I-
Lori said that ain't her favorite one, but there's
yeah.
another one of me and him where I'm standing in front of him. That's kind of, yeah.
I just think that Harry, you know, if he was anything like you, I wish I could have met him. I really do.
No, that was at a wedding, his oldest brother's wedding. That was some family get together, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
We'll get to it.
Yeah.
Lori said you still ain't got to the good one yet.
Well, I haven't got it. I guess, do I have it on here?
Yeah, I don't know. It's one where I'm standing in front of him.
You're standing in front.
We're both little, standing in front of like a white cabinet, and I'm standing in front of him.
Okay, wait a second here.
Because if you bring it up, I'll point out something that I don't know if everybody catches. Lori thinks it's hilarious.
It may be on my phone and not on here.
May not be. We'll have to find it.
Yeah, I know I've got.
I know I got a lot of
on my
sweatshirt
phone.
and different things, but yeah, there's the one picture where I'm standing in front of him. I have no clue why, but my hands are in his pockets.
Oh, I remember that. I do have that on my phone.
Like,
Yeah.
what? You know, it's like, what in the right mind was?
Yeah, I do have that on my phone. Okay, so now we're gonna go over pictures of like where he was parked at.
Yep.
So this is where the library is, and this is approximately where Harry's car was supposed to have been at.
Yep. And that's about what, a block and a half away from the bar. I mean, you could go down the alley.
I was gonna say if you go to the
and walk
alleyway,
right down and go in the back door of the bar. So
yeah, if you go down the alleyway, it'd be right there, from where his car was. Okay, and then next, this is across the street, and this is where it's just an empty lot now, but this is where an
Right.
apartment building, and this is where they say a party was at, right? That Harry
Right.
was supposed to have been in.
If you look at the right side of this picture, would be over toward the library. That would be right along the street right there.
Yes.
And then the library. So Harry was parked over there. There was supposedly a party at this house here that night, where earlier in the night Harry was seen with Jeff Adler and Doug Matty, and there was a couple girls there hanging out. So there was some kind of party going on there that night.
Yeah. And I wish we could figure out who was all there at that party, you know.
Yeah.
All righty. Next is I'll let you explain it, Mark.
This is the northeast corner of the square. Darwin Thomas lived upstairs, up them stairs right there. That's where Harry would have been at 10:20 at night. He stopped right there, you know, in the street, close to the bottom of their stairs. That's where he talked to Darwin Thomas at that night.
Yeah. Okay. Next, I'm going to bring this up
that's
a
the
little
Grimes residence. That's where he was painting at you know, that day supposedly, and talked to Angie Kozlik, which lives kind of catty corner there from the Grimes residence, I believe.
Okay, and then if I'm right, so this is Benton Avenue, so the library would be clear down this way, right?
Yeah, to the left of this picture, if you went straight left, probably 8-9 blocks, the library would be right there.
Okay, and this is where he was painting at.
Yeah.
And we still don't know if he made it home or not to change his clothes, right?
Well, I know he made it home at some point. At some point, he made it home and talked to my mom, changed clothes. and left for the evening. I just don't know exactly what time, he was home or anything. So
Yeah,
but at some point he came home, talked to her about laying some carpet the next day on something she was doing, and said he'd help her and changed clothes and headed for town.
And that's when he also told your sister to make sure that I'm up.
Yeah, make sure I'm up for the
game.
I got ball games the next morning.
And and then we're going to go back because Denny said he called.
Right. He called there at 9 o'clock in the morning for some reason.
Yeah. Even though Denny or Harry told his sister to make sure he was up.
Yeah.
Okay. Next.
That is the side of the waterworks. That white door.
Right there.
You see right there below the steps. That would have been the back door going into the waterworks bar. And around the corner to the front where the I think Hawkeye Farm sign is, on that end is the main street through town. That's Main Street. That's the front entrance to the bar, but not too many people I remember used to come in the front door. They all went.
Now that's all not anymore, but the other bar on the opposite side, they always use the front entrance. But wasn't there a door in the alleyway?
No, just right here. That's the only one. You had to come that alley. If you see that brown door,
yes,
just the other side. Yeah, that brown door over there. Just the other side of that is the alley coming out. So you just basically had to come out of the alley and around the corner and in the door.
Someone had said something to me that in the alleyway, you know how you could go and you could turn. There's that little place, that area you could walk to go into the alleyway. There was a door back there.
There may have been.
I'm just going to go. I can look.
That they used or something. But I mean, as far as patrons, these are the only two I know of. And the other thing is up the stairs right there.
Right.
That apartment there was the Mike Stalker, the guy that ran the bar at the time, owned and ran the bar. And there was a lot of after-hour parties upstairs.
Yeah. And he was the one that was playing cards that night, supposedly.
Yes. He's the one playing cards. Yep.
Yes. Okay. Next is the front.
Yep, that'd be the front there. Yep.
Right through here.
It's changed a lot over the years, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it has. Okay. And then the last one.
This would be the the Western Club, which is clear across town. That building was the Western Club. And then if you, on the left side of that picture, there's a little alley right there. And right next to that was a police station and the sheriff's department.
Right next door.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you literally, that alley is just wide enough to get a car through.
Yeah. And they just built the new police station, a couple years ago?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Even when I worked there, the police station was next to that building.
Yeah. It
was. And the Western Club is where Harry was, went and picked up the tapes. And it's also where he supposedly was taking Jeff Adler back to his car.
Oh, Sean's princess. My name's Allie too. She's talking about every time we say Allie, her dog's looking up because her name's Allie. Sean's princess says this seriously looks like my neighborhood. And then Debbie says, I seen in some of your earlier information, Harry talked about picking up something that belonged to another person and possibly going toward Ottumwa.
The only thing I know about Ottumwa is one of the guys mentioned that they had conversated about wanting to go to Ottumwa for breakfast. But the only thing he picked up from somebody would have been when he met Jim Lundstrom over here at the Western Club and picked up some of his tapes.
Yeah.
And he said they never did go to Ottumwa. Harry wanted to go eat breakfast in Ottumwa and nobody else did. So
yeah, I still wonder, that tape case is kind of.
Yeah,
I wonder about
that. Yeah, there's a lot of speculation, I guess, on that. Was it getting tapes? Was there some drugs involved? Was there who knows what?
Yeah, exactly. Who knows? We wasn't there. I'm going to read this up here, though. It says Harry stops here between 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. and enters the bar to make contact with Jim Lundstrom to get his tapes he had loaned him. Jim and Gail Lundstrom, I don't know what that says up there because my thing's off, but says Harry was also to be returning to this location at approximately 2:30 to take Jeff Adler to his vehicle that was parked there.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's back to that, and you got eyewitnesses putting Jeff in Harry's car to go over there at 2:30 in the morning. I guess my question is, did Harry and Jeff go over here and get his car and then drive back to the library, park their cars there, and then get in with Steve Rockwell? And what time was that? 3 o'clock. And by that time it had been 3 o'clock in the morning or better.
Broken Justice. Well, first of all, Mark says, I would like to ask the bartenders who left around that time. Let me get this off. Are you here, Mark?
Yep. I got you.
So,
yeah, like I said,
do we know?
Just trying to identify who the bartenders was is another question. The biggest issue is when you start dealing with the bar and what took place there and different things like that is 4 days after Harry come up missing, roughly, the sheriff's department talks to Jeff Adler, Doug Matty, Steve Rockwell, looks like Denny Hollenrink. There's a few other people, I think Darlene Matty, Doug Matty, within 3 or 4 days, they've talked to these people. And at no point, and you'll see in all the notes, everything within that file, nobody ever mentions the bar. So
yeah,
the police, not kicking anybody or saying anything bad in any way. They only knew what they asked, which was very little. But they had no other place to look. They didn't, they didn't suspect a crime. They thought Harry just took off and, is in a ditch or went somewhere and he'll sober up and come home, or whatever. So nobody ever asked the right questions.
Yeah.
They didn't ask, where were you? What were you doing? Who was you with? Who else was around? Those type of things never got asked. And all this bar scenario really didn't come out until years down the road, where now too late, it's like too late, trying to go, ideally, if things would have went ideally for thinking more than just somebody up and disappeared, if they would have even thought to think foul play, or something along those lines, then they could have, like normal we would have done as a police, you'd have canvassed the bar, you'd have canvassed the neighborhood, you'd have been back at that bar, the next day, talking to the bar owner, talking to the people, talking to seeing who was the bartender and these type of things. All of that stuff was just never done, because unfortunately, nobody took it serious, in my opinion. They just thought, he'll turn up,
Yeah.
I don't understand 3 and 4 days later, he hasn't showed up, why you're not asking a whole lot more questions than what you did.
Exactly. Was there strict closings? Like bars had to be closed at a certain time back then?
2 o'clock was closing time, but the Waterworks bar, 2 o'clock was closing time. But a lot of times, even me back in the days, I remember, and it was like that at most of the bars sometimes. 2 o'clock was closing time. That's when the door got locked. That don't mean the party stopped.
Yeah, exactly.
People still stayed there, either hanging out, finishing up what they were drinking, serving some more, having an after-hour party with the doors locked. With somebody keeping an eye out to make sure the cops didn't show up there. That type of thing. So,
Broken Justice says, and is there any chance of any that he had too much to drink and he did go to that place for breakfast and ran off the road and into some water?
I mean, very, that's another one of the definite possibilities. That's kind of the reasoning for having chaos divers involved.
Yep.
We've looked at the routes to go to Atumwa, looked at possibilities of, what bodies of water. That's why, I know that was a big thing with Jacob. They went down there and spent a whole day searching the river, searching all the accesses to the river down to the Tumwa, checking along areas where maybe a car could have ran off a road and got in the river.
That river's, it can get deep.
I mean, yeah, it's got deep spots, and sometimes it's shallow enough you can walk across,
Yep.
So, but I mean, we pulled one vehicle out of there that was a stolen vehicle, at least. But I mean, that's definitely a thought. I went over and over the different routes, looking at them, and I guess that's one of the big things I'm doing right now. I've got an individual I'm working with that's kind of his area of expertise is mapping things out, plotting things out, doing a probability type thing, and looking at aerial photos for different changes, in land along creeks or ponds and different things like that. It's kind of hard to explain, but so I'm kind of working with him right now to we're just kind of getting started on all of that, breaking down all the quadrants of Monroe County, starting with the last knowns of Harry, the last known place he was, where he lived, where the ball field was that day, and just trying to, start isolating everything. Okay, what has been searched, what hasn't been searched, what looks like a possibility, those type of things. So, it's definitely a possibility, but it's back to that same thing. And that's why we've been using, great people like that, is to try to narrow things down, and that's, just like the guys talked to tonight. He said he's got no problem with letting people know that, we're going to find Harry, and it's just a matter of taking it one little step at a time and keep narrowing things down until we can say, here's what happened and here's where he's at,
Yep. Jay Happy Girl says, any place that could house a car like his?
It's rural Iowa. I mean, barns,
Lots of
somebody
barns.
could have drove it in a barn. Somebody,
and then they could have stripped it.
Yeah. They could have stripped it. I mean, just a million different scenarios. I mean, that's another
Crushed it.
Big thing I'm working on now is getting the VIN number out to all the major salvage companies in the country, and say, hey, here's a car, come across one like it, it could have been sitting in a shed for 20 years and somebody, now it's been sold in an estate, and moved somewhere else, and it may pop up somewhere, but it's back to that same thing of, narrowing things down one step at a time.
We ended up getting his VIN number, right, of the car, but not the license plate.
I have the license plate and the VIN. I've got the license plate. I've got the title to it and everything else.
Well, I knew that the VIN number, but I didn't know the license plate.
Yeah, if you wouldn't have asked me, it's 244 EIJ. Is that it? I had a lot of, if you wouldn't have asked me, I could have told you. Nope, but I think that's what it is. I think it's 244 EIJ, I think. But I'll get it.
Yes, I knew that. Yes, I knew that.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm thinking. I think I'm tired or something. But let's see. Mark, so hard to find out now. Oh, that was Lori.
He said,
she's answering his question about somebody purchasing a high price item. I mean, like I said, that's the bad part of being 40 years later. There was just so much time has went by of some of the things that nowadays are so easy, to figure out. That's the trouble. I mean.
Yeah, it is. It is. There was a couple people emailed me just today, just wanting me to ask a question for each of them. Okay. Did Harry play cards like every weekend? Do you know that? Do you know, or was it
Harry
just
played a lot of cards. That was a big thing back then. Him and a lot of his friends, him, Denny, Pat. I mean, they played cards at college. They played cards back here. You know, in La Villa,
so
they
it
went up there and
wasn't
played at
just
Dixie Steckelberg's all the time. You know,
it,
I mean, that was a
it,
big thing. Poker was a big thing then. You know,
yeah,
with all
but
these guys.
it wasn't always just at the waterworks.
No, I mean they played all different places. You
Okay,
know,
well,
his house.
do you know if he ever went down to Appanoose County to play cards at called the
Not
Ballet?
that I'm aware of. I don't. You know, I mean, I know back in my day at that time. Yeah, he stayed
I
pretty
guess
close to home. I don't
I
know that they ever went down there and played cards. I mean, the only place I know of ever playing that there was ever card games that I can remember was in Mystic, Iowa. You know, there was a bar down there. There was a
oh
little bar.
yeah.
There's a little bar down there that you could probably get served when you were 15.
Well,
You could play
you
cards when
know,
you were 15, 16. If you had money, they didn't care.
I
You
know
know,
when I was a kid, there used to be called the Silver Spur and Club 34 or
yep,
34 Club, and they always had cards there. My dad told me that.
yeah.
Um,
You know, whether he did or not, like I say, that's the bad part with. I don't ever recall him talking about that or seeing that when I was here.
he probably
You
didn't
know,
like to go out of town if he was
yeah,
drinking
I mean,
and driving.
normally it was just a bunch of the good old boys playing cards at somebody's
Yeah.
house,
Yeah.
or something like that.
And then you may know this, but do you know if Harry was a scrapper? Did he fight a lot or not? I didn't think that
I mean, I don't ever recall him getting into a fight that I
other
can
than an
remember,
argument.
but I know he would fight. I mean, me and him scrapped a lot at different times. You know, I
Who
mean,
won? Who won, Mark?
most time him. I hate to say it, but most time him. But he was one of them long, lanky guys that.
Oh my
you know,
goodness.
so, but yeah, I mean, yeah, and I guarantee you, being out of the Marine Corps like he was, I guarantee you it wouldn't have, if he was like me, you thought you could whip the world. I mean, the
Yeah.
Marine Corps kind of brainwashed you into that. If somebody wanted to fight, let's fight.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Okay, and then there's one last question. When he was at college, did you ever hear of any girl he was talking to down in Missouri?
nope. I can't figure out who he was talking to here.
Did he come home every weekend? Or
I don't think he did
try?
I don't think he did every weekend. I mean, I mean, if I remember from my mom and dad saying, I mean, there was times if there was something going on down at college, that they'd stay down there. He'd stay down there for the weekend. But
Have you ever contacted the college to get information on him?
I've got some information which is in that file. That's all I know.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't, I don't know any more than what's there. I don't know what else they would have other than, grades and that type of thing. I mean, but as far as, yeah, I tried to ask that the other day, even, was their friends at college? And, it's another one of them things where everybody draws a blank, nobody seems to know, who his friends were that he hung out at college with, and
well, all I know,
supposedly on Friday night before he came up missing, he had a date with some girl.
Yeah. Who?
Yeah, who? And people don't understand. It's not a matter of pointing fingers or anything. Sometimes it's a matter of talk. Sometimes it's a matter of talking to somebody to try to find out what was his mindset, during that, week or so before he came up missing. Was there really something going on? I mean,
yeah, he could have been talking to a girl, somebody that was dating another guy, and he could have reached over, grabbed somebody's butt. She could have hit on him and made the husband, the dad, the boyfriend, whatever mad. We don't know, but we're gonna find out.
Yeah,
we're gonna find out.
Debbie asked his roommate. His roommate was initially Denny Hollenrank at school, and then for whatever, they were best friends all through high school. Became friends. They we ended up going to college. Were roommates at college, And after a semester at college or so, it seems like they were both getting bad grades. And then he said they decided to separate as roommates. And that's when he became roommates with Brian Williams. And, I just don't see, I think there's more to the story even there. I mean, if you're rooming with your best friend in college, ain't that what you're supposed to do? Party and have a good time and maybe screw off your grades a little bit, especially in the first year, till you get your head on straight. So I don't know. There's a lot of questions there too.
Yeah, I agree. There's so many questions. And that's why we're doing this, because we look at this. I can't imagine what you and Lori, you look at this case file and it just seems like everything just runs together, and it's going to take somebody to see, hey, stop for a minute. And so next week, we didn't get into the case file because he wanted to go through the timeline, which I thought was very important to understand what he knows. We don't know what happened, but what people have told Mark.
Right.
And that is on the page, and I'm going to drop the Facebook page if anybody wants to.
Yeah, invite your friends, invite anybody.
Yes,
you never
please,
know.
you guys.
People, the routes, I put them up there this week. If you look at them, that's confusing within itself, because last three people with him and their thoughts or opinions or statements of routes that he traveled when they dropped him off, none of them make sense. So, I'm going to keep putting up more and more information on the page. Like I said, it's all about doing a reset, looking back, going through every little thing, taking a look at it, letting everybody look at it and saying, am I missing something? Is there something else we need to be doing? Somebody else we need to be talking to, another approach to something that we can do different. That's why I appreciate everybody that, looks at the video, comes on here and comments and asks questions.
Yes. And
Reach
email
out.
me some
Even
more.
if you don't want to comment on here, if you watch the video later, and you have questions, my phone's always on. I answer everything that I can.
He does.
He does. Because I never know when that one person is going to have that one little piece of information that sets things over the top.
Yeah, it's going to take. It's something little that's going to open. It's going to open this case all the way up. I feel it. I've said it.
Yeah.
Before we go, Mark, I do want to tell everybody locally at the store, Lori brought in some blankets and the beautiful scarves and some baby booties. And we're doing a raffle on the blankets. They're $5 each or 3 for $12. And I'm going to do a drawing live on the store page on December 20th at 6:00. So if anybody wants any tickets for that blanket, and Lori also said, if you don't see a blanket that you like there, she will make you any color that you want. So just letting you know, the scarves are $20 and the booties are, I think $3 or $5 each, or a donation, whatever you want to give, because all this money goes to Harry's fund. And so Mark can continue doing the signs and hopefully get him a private investigator or his own attorney or whatever.
Whatever it takes, we're going to, like I said, we're not going to stop. So
yes, exactly. So make sure you guys come in. People that can't come in, if you guys want tickets, you guys know how to get a hold of me, and you can, Venmo me, even PayPal Mark if you want, or Venmo Mark. I don't think you have Cash App, do you?
No, I don't have cash. I just got Venmo and PayPal.
Yeah, and see, I have it also. If you guys want to, I keep track of that and I screenshot it and send Mark that. And I'll put your tickets, write your name on there. And it's beautiful Christmas gifts, or just keep it for yourself, like I'm going to. Or, and it goes to Harry. So make sure you guys, if you want anything, let me know. and the box is still there. We're still, people are just very kind and generous. Every little,
I will say the only box that's out right now is at your shop. All the other ones that we did have out, we picked them up just because it's Christmas time.
Well, I know that Down Home Creations.
Yeah, right, Down Home Creations.
Yeah.
Lori didn't get.
They also have a box there, so
Down Home, and you have one. So
yeah, and if you go in and eat their rolled ice cream,
oh my God,
I got some at the Victorian Stroll the other night.
The
oh my
Cinnamon
God,
Toast Crunch one is like the bomb.
So, anyways, yeah. So, is there anything you want to talk about more, or anybody have questions?
I think we're good for tonight. Like I say, we'll figure out. I'll try to get it up ahead of time. We'll get together and figure out what we want to talk about next week, and I'll try to do just like I did this week.
Yeah.
Share some things up there.
When we figure out what part of the case file, if we're going to just go page by page, we'll
probably try to keep with most of the statements. That's probably the easiest way. I mean, breaking, just showing all them and breaking it down.
Yeah. I'll get it scheduled and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you have a good night. Good night, Lori.
Thank you, everybody. She's over there somewhere.
Thank you, my mods, to everybody in chat. I adore you guys. I appreciate you. Debbie, thank you for coming in and asking questions. We need to get together more. And it's always great to know that there's people that care. And they would rather be listening to Harry's story than stuff that doesn't mean anything, the drama stuff. It doesn't mean anything. So we appreciate you guys. You have a good night.
Everybody. Yep.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.